You know that moment someone asks you something in English and the answer is right there sitting in your chest, fully formed, in your own language. And by the time you've translated it word by word, moved the grammar around, checked it twice in your head, the moment's already gone. They've moved on, you just smile, nod, say yeah, exactly to something you didn't even fully agree with. Hi, I'm Emma, welcome back. If that's ever happened to you, I want you to know something before we go any further. You're not bad at English. You're just doing something incredibly exhausting without realizing it. And tonight, I want to talk about why that happens and more importantly, how it stops. This isn't going to be a grammar lesson. I'm not here to hand you a list of rules you already know and still can't use fast enough in the moment. This is about something quieter than grammar. It's about the gap between knowing a language and living inside it. And you don't have to have this all figured out to keep watching. You don't even have to believe it's possible yet. Just stay with me for a few minutes. Let me paint a small picture first. You're at a coffee shop. The barista asks for here or to go? Such a simple question. But somewhere in your head, a switch flips, you translate it into your first language, you form the answer there, and then you translate it back into English before it leaves your mouth. All of that in maybe 2 seconds. It's genuinely impressive, honestly. Your brain is doing gymnastics just to order a coffee, but it's also a lot, and it leaves you feeling like you're always one step behind your own voice. So let's talk about why that's happening and what actually loosens it. The first thing I want you to understand is this: translating in your head isn't a sign that you don't know English. It's a bridge. At some point a long time ago, that bridge was useful. It got you from zero understanding to some understanding. But here's the thing about bridges: they're built for crossing, not for living on. And so many of us built this beautiful, sturdy bridge between our first language and English, and then just moved in. We set up a whole life on that bridge instead of walking across it into an open field on the other side. I remember doing this myself back when I was first getting comfortable in English. I'd rehearse entire sentences in my head before saying them out loud, practicing, translating, adjusting, and by the time I opened my mouth, the conversation had already shifted. I used to think that meant I wasn't good enough. It just meant I hadn't given myself permission to step off the bridge yet. So here's a line you can hold on to: the bridge got you here, you don't owe it your whole life. Now, here's where it gets a little more tender. Because underneath all that translating, there's usually something else running quietly in the background, a small, sharp voice that critiques every sentence before it even leaves your mouth. Did I use the right tense? Does that sound weird? Are they judging my accent right now? It's like there's a tiny editor sitting on your shoulder with a red pen, circling every word before you're even allowed to say it. I want you to notice something about that editor, though. It doesn't actually help you speak better. It just makes you speak slower and quieter and less like yourself. I remember once in a meeting, I said informations instead of information, such a small thing, and I spent the next 10 minutes replaying it instead of listening to a single other word that was said. The correction mattered less than the punishment I gave myself for it. Here's the reframe I'd offer you: the editor isn't protecting you, it's just scared on your behalf, and you can thank it gently and still not let it hold the pen. There's a third thing that quietly slows people down, and it's comparison. You hear a native speaker talk smooth, fast, effortless, and some part of you measures your own English against that right there on the spot. But that comparison isn't fair, and it was never supposed to be. Think of it like a garden. You wouldn't stand a seedling next to a 20-year-old oak tree and ask why it's not as tall yet. Of course it isn't. It hasn't had 20 years of rain and sun and time. Your English is a seedling that's been growing for a much shorter season in different soil, in a language your mouth wasn't originally shaped for. It's not behind, it's just younger. Say this one to yourself if you need it: I'm not competing with a tree. I'm growing a garden of my own at my own pace. And the last piece I want to give you is maybe the most practical one: how thinking in English actually starts to feel automatic. It's not a switch, it's a path. Picture a big open field of grass. If you walk the exact same line through that field every single day, eventually the grass wears down and a path appears: smooth, easy, obvious. That's your first language in your brain, decades of walking that same line. English, for most of us, is still just grass. There's no worn-in path yet, so every sentence feels like pushing through undergrowth. But paths don't get built by thinking about walking. They get built by walking. Every single time you let yourself think, even clumsily in English, you're pressing down a little more grass. So here's the bridge into the next part, because I promised you this wouldn't just be a list of ideas floating around. Let's actually practice softening some of what we say to ourselves, because how we talk to ourselves about this whole process matters more than we give it credit for. If you've ever thought, I sound stupid when I speak English, I want to offer you something kinder and just as true. I sound like someone speaking a second language, and that takes more courage than most people who only speak one language will ever have to find. If you've ever thought, I'll never think in English naturally, try this instead. I'm wearing a new path into the grass, and paths take time. Mine isn't finished. That doesn't mean it isn't forming. And if you've ever thought, I keep translating because I'm just not smart enough for this, here's the truer version. I built a habit out of fear a long time ago, and habits, no matter how old, can always be rebuilt. Say those a little slower than you'd say the harsh ones. Let them actually land. And here's the moment I really want you to take with you tonight, the one thing underneath everything else we've talked about. Fluency isn't the absence of your first language in your head. It's the presence of enough trust that you stop needing it there. Read that back if you need to. It's not about erasing where you come from. It's about trusting yourself enough in English that you don't need the safety net of translating every single time. So one small thing before we close, and I do mean small, almost embarrassingly small. Tonight, before you fall asleep, spend 2 minutes narrating your day in English inside your own head. Not out loud, not written down, no one has to hear it. Just quietly think through what you did today. I woke up late, I made tea, I forgot my umbrella, in English as it comes, mistakes and all. That's it, that's the whole path building exercise. 2 minutes. Tonight, let's bring it all together quickly because I want these to actually stick with you. The bridge got you here, but you don't have to live on it forever. That harsh little editor on your shoulder is scared, not wise. You can thank it and still speak anyway. You're not behind a native speaker, you're just growing on a different timeline in your own garden. And every clumsy, imperfect sentence you think in English is one more step worn into that path. So tonight, when you catch yourself translating, and you will, probably more than once, I don't want you to panic or push it away. Just notice it gently, the way you'd notice a habit you're in the process of outgrowing. That noticing on its own is already the beginning of the path. Tell me something in the comments. What's one word or phrase you always catch yourself translating in your head? I'd genuinely love to know. I'm not the only one who used to trip over in